Before he was a disruptor, before the spin serve, before he was president of anything, Zane Navratil was a kid from Racine, Wisconsin, with a tennis racket in one hand and a spreadsheet in the other. Born in Australia, raised in the Midwest, Zane is proudly half Indian through his mother. He grew up attending the Prairie School, where he first found sports, and found humor too, often as a defense against bullying in middle school. And that trademark wit, yeah, it's been there for a while. He even jokes that his longtime girlfriend, Jennifer, who he met back in school, was the first person he bullied as a sign of affection. By age 10, Zane was locked into tennis. By 12, he was training seriously. Between 2012 and 2014, he won 3 Wisconsin state championships in Division II tennis. A future in competitive sports was obvious, just maybe not in pickleball yet. Then came winter 2013. Zane's dad took him to the Cesar Chavez Community Center. That's where Zane picked up a paddle. Casually at first, just playing with his father. He still had bigger plans for tennis. He went on to play Division III tennis at the University of Wisconsin-Whitewater, where he also earned academic All-American honors. A numbers guy, an athlete, a grinder. He finished with a master's degree in accounting and landed a prestigious job at Deloitte. But while he was auditing spreadsheets by day, he was quietly playing tournaments on the weekend, sneaking in pickleball, waiting for the moment. That moment came in 2020. At 24, Zane walked away from Deloitte and into pickleball full-time. His mom didn't love the idea at first, but a few wins later, she came around, from a state champ with a day job to one of the most talked-about players in the sport. Zane's rise wasn't flashy, but it was calculated, like everything else he does.
In 2021, Zane Navratil introduced a serve so effective, so controversial, it changed the sport of pickleball forever. It was called the chainsaw spin serve, and depending on who you ask, it was either pure genius or pure chaos. Originally pioneered by Morgan Evans, it was Zane who refined it, popularized it, and took it to the mainstream in high-level tournament play. The serve worked like this. Before even striking the ball, Zane would pre-spin it by rolling it off the paddle edge or his fingers, like revving a chainsaw. That spin translated into unpredictable bounces, wild curves, and total frustration for returners. Traditional serves relied on spin, generated by the paddle stroke, but the chainsaw added another layer, a kind of weaponized spin that made the ball kick, swerve, and sometimes even ace opponents outright. It wasn't illegal at the time, but it was divisive. Fans loved it, amateurs hated it, pros debated it. Even Zane himself ran a poll among 51 top players. 63% wanted to keep spin serves legal, but Reddit told a different story. 60% of 300 rec players wanted it banned. In 2022, USA Pickleball acted. First, they banned the paddle edge version, shutting down the original chainsaw, but by 2023, they banned all pre-spun serves, including the one-handed finger spin that replaced it. Their reasoning? It went against the spirit of rally-based play. It was too hard for beginners to return. It created safety concerns on small courts, and it gave too much advantage to a handful of advanced players. Zane pushed back. He argued the serve was an evolution, a skill, and that banning it made the sport softer. He even showed that return rates improved the more players faced spin serves. In other words, players adapt. But the committee decided otherwise. The serve was banned. And Zane? He lost a weapon, but gained something bigger, a voice. This wasn't just about spin, it was about the future of the sport, and Zane was about to go from innovating on the court to influencing it from the top.
Just a few years after redefining how the sport was played, Zane Navratil is now helping define how the sport is governed. In July 2025, Zane was elected the president of the Pro Player Committee, a new player-led body formed under the UPA, which now oversees both the PPA and MLP. And this isn't some honorary title. It's a landmark move in the evolution of professional pickleball. The committee gives pro players for the first time a formal voice in shaping the rules, schedules, safety protocols, and compensation structures that affect their lives. In other words, pickleball has a union-like voice, and Zane is at the helm, and he's qualified, not just as a pro, not just as the guy who challenged the serve rulebook, but as a former CPA, a clinic director, a podcast host, a brand strategist, and one of the most influential voices in the game. Officially recognized with a 2023 Dink Award, Zane has sat on every side of the pickleball table, as a player and former team captain for the New Jersey Fives, as a broadcaster and commentator, as a partner with companies like PaddleTech and ProXR, as a media personality through his podcast, PicklePod, That full-stack experience gives him credibility, language, and access that most players simply don't have. But Zane's vision for the committee? It's not about confrontation. It's about collaboration. Unlike traditional sports unions, this committee doesn't want to shut down leagues. It wants to build smarter systems. That means tackling real issues like burnout, from overbooked PPA MLP schedules, fairer prize money structures for non-marquee players, travel logistics that don't break the bank, transparency in paddle testing, venue safety, and ball consistency. But here's the challenge, and it's a big one. The Pro Player Committee has no legal leverage. It's not a union. It operates on credibility and consistency, and that's where Zane's reputation becomes everything.
While most pros focus on training, Zane Navratil built something bigger, a platform. From analytics to clinics, commentary to content, Zane turned his name into a business, and each part of it moves the sport forward. Zane's most technical role, ambassador and analyst for DUPR. As the sport's most widely adopted rating system, DUPR helps players track performance, compare matchups, and, let's be honest, settle bragging rights. In 2022, Zane broke it down for the world. He published his own performance chart, analyzed match trends, and made elite-level stats accessible to amateurs. His LinkedIn posts and explainer videos turned numbers into strategy, helping players find better partners, prep smarter, and measure progress over time. Zane's efforts helped major orgs like Lifetime fully adopt DUPR, expanding its reach. In a sport desperate for consistency, his push for a unified rating system is a massive step toward professionalization. Then there's his clinics, where Zane's footwork, shot placement, and legendary serve form the foundation of his coaching style. Zane's hosted clinics for groups of 16 to 32 players, charging around $75 a day. But it's not just drills and drop shots, it's mentorship. He customizes sessions for all levels, challenges players with his infamous serve spin test, and even promotes his own Pro XR signature paddle, one of the most talked about paddles in pro play. These aren't just teaching moments, they're brand building, relationship building. Zane's clinics export his influence globally and tie into the sport's expansion targets for 2030. If you've watched Pro Pickleball, you've probably heard Zane's voice. As a color commentator for the PPA Tour and MLP broadcasts, Zane delivers analysis that's sharp, funny, and honest, often addressing the exact issues the sport tries to avoid. Whether explaining the impact of MLP's new side-out scoring or dissecting a Dreambreaker meltdown, Zane makes high-level strategy feel accessible and alive. And it's that mix, humor, data, and brutal honesty that makes his commentary so addictive. But Zane's biggest amplifier? PicklePod. As co-host of the sport's leading podcast, Zane and Thomas Shields go deep on the business, politics, and tech behind Pro Pickleball. From paddle regulations to payout structures, chainsaw serve bans to shady player trades, no topics off limits.
By 2025, Zane Navratil isn't just playing the game, he's monetizing every layer of it. His income now comes from brand partnerships with Franklin, DUPR, Selkirk, and Squares, paddle advisory roles with ProXR and PaddleTech, commentary for PBTV and Game Plus, clinics and training events across the US and abroad, sponsored content, podcasts, and guest speaking, limited but strategic tournament appearances. At clinics, he teaches strategic shot placement and aggressive dinking to groups of 16 to 32 players, sometimes internationally, and often while promoting his ProXR signature paddle. These sessions are methodical, informative, and draw high engagement. He's also continued his role as one of the sport's premier color commentators. With a mix of analysis, humor, and opinion, he's become a fan favorite on PBTV and Game Plus broadcasts, especially when dissecting paddle tech, scoring formats, and rule shifts. His podcast, PicklePod, and YouTube content extend his reach further. Whether he's breaking down a zero backswing drive, discussing MLP roster shakeups, or raising money for Alzheimer's research, he's reinforcing his brand, smart, strategic, a step ahead. Zane's estimated net worth? Somewhere between $500,000 and $1.5 million, according to projected earnings from clinics, brand deals, media, guest speaking, and limited tournament winnings. Add in potential equity in paddle companies or future business ventures, and that number could grow significantly. Call it diversified, call it smart, call it the business of Zane Navratil. Because while others are chasing medals, Zane's building legacy. and leverage.
Zane may not be on the podium every weekend anymore, but in a sport that's still defining what it means to be a professional, he's leading the way. He's shown how a pro athlete can diversify, build a platform, influence the sport without dominating the stat sheet. And now, as president of the Pro Player Committee, he's taking that influence to a league-wide level. Is Zane Navratil the future of the pickleball business model? Maybe, or maybe he's just the first one to get there. What do you think of Zane's next chapter? Smart evolution? Too soon to step back from the court? Drop your take in the comments below. And if you love stories like this and where pickleball meets business, drama, and growth, hit that like button and subscribe to Pickleball Pantry, because we're just getting started.